And Jess Phillips, who's the Minister for Safeguarding, has turned around and says, no, the government's not going to do it, it's down to the council, you need to do it. She's scared stiff what it uncovers will end the Labour Party. If you're a poor white kid in this country, you're scared of being stabbed to death and you're scared of being raped to death. Because every time we take someone amazing from around the world, we leave their country poorer. And we wonder why we have the third world. Because anyone with any sense and brains and capacity, we steal those people, so we need to stop stealing people.
Gentle listeners, welcome to episode 69 of The Mayor and I, with I, Lindsay Khan, and the Mayor, Nick Buckley, MBE. This is our first new year. Welcome to Happy New Year, Nick.
Thank you much.
Thank you very much. Lots have happened already this year that we're going to talk about. We are at a later point going to do our predictions for 2025. Just thinking ahead about that, mine will be far more global and important than yours, Nick, which I suspect will be parochial and probably involve Andy Burnham or something like that.
It may do, it may not.
I don't want to spoil our viewers' surprise, but expect to hear some big ideas from me, not so much from Nick. But yeah, a lot's happened, and we discuss here things that are happening in the news, and a lot has happened already in 2025. A lot of news already within a week, so we keep thinking that eventually we're going to run out of things to talk about, but a lot's happened.
This first week's exploded. It's only, 5 days up to now, and look what's happened.
Yeah, and the most exciting thing was yesterday that United drew 2-2 with Liverpool, which we thought we were going to get trounced. So great news there. Yeah. I know you were thrilled, Nick, to hear the result.
It's always good to beat Liverpool. I suppose it was an away game, so a draw is quite acceptable.
Yeah, and because it was such an important match, I actually went to the pub on my own
to watch it,
and got myself a beer and sat there and watched it in the pub. It was very nice, very pleasant. So I think the first thing we've got to leap straight into, Nick, about is, and I've called it here, Pakistani child rape gangs. And the reason I've called it that is because I don't want to call it grooming gangs, because I think grooming gangs kind of adds almost a kind of gentle feel to what is something that's quite horrific.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is this is something you've been talking about for a long time, since you and I have been started talking about the grooming gangs. I think, first of all, maybe you'll give us a little précis in a moment of what's happened, but first of all, there's a number that I've seen bandied around in terms of the number of girls involved in this, children, young girls involved in this, and the number's 250,000. Do you know where that number comes from? Because I've done a bit of research before I came out today, and I didn't find anything I could immediately put my hands on.
Government figures is in the tens of thousands, low tens of thousands.
Yeah.
I've always guessed 100,000, and I've only this last week seen the figure 250,000. It's going to be someone's guesstimate.
Yeah.
Based on how many incidents, how many victims in the past, and so nobody knows. Because we have never looked into it good enough to be able to work out how many children we allow to be raped. We just don't know.
And why, I think to start with on this subject, why has it suddenly exploded as it has into the mainstream, into the media, and internationally as well, I understand now people are talking about this horrific thing that's been going on? So
this has been going on for 40, 50 years. All my lifetime this has been going on. And it's been covered up and covered up and covered up. One or two great reporters have managed to get it in the press, but then nothing happens about it because you're a racist, he's a racist, let's not talk about it. Community cohesion. Don't persecute all Muslims, don't persecute all Pakistanis. We need social cohesion. Don't say that, don't do that. You can't have everybody with the same brush. And we've had a litany of just those statements all the time. But what's happened differently this time is two things. First of all, Elon Musk has brought it to world attention by commenting on it online on Twitter. But what really happened was last year, Oldham Council, Labour lost at the local election some councillors and didn't have control over the council anymore. So they did a deal with some independents, and they said to them, if you join us, we'll be able to stay in power and run the council. And the Independents said, well, we'll do that under one condition. You ask for an independent inquiry on the grooming gang scandal in Oldham. And the Labour councillor said, OK, roll on a year. They've asked for it now. And Jess Phillips, who's the Minister for Safeguarding, has turned around and says, no, the government's not going to do it. It's down to the council. You need to do it. So the Labour council have gone, thank God for that, because we didn't want it anyway.
They didn't want it.
We've been forced into it to keep our jobs.
Yeah.
They've said no, so it's going to be the government who takes the flak now, not the council. Jess Phillips has been heavily criticised because she's been involved in what she calls ending violence against women and girls. Not ending violence against everybody, which I'd like to do. She just picks the people she wants to end violence against. And the fact that she has spent years criticising the Tory government, and right in doing so, about them doing nothing about the grooming gangs and women being raped and children being raped and abused. She's on record on YouTube everywhere talking about it. Now she's in power. And now she's the minister in charge of safeguarding. She's turned around and said, oh, it's not really for us to do. It's a local matter. The council needs to do it. So everybody attacked her. Because she's the minister, the MP, who stands up in Parliament every year and reads the names of every woman and girl killed by a man in this country. Doesn't read any men's names out who've been killed by women. No, she just reads women's names out. And she's a hypocrite. We always knew she was a hypocrite, but she's a gobby cow. So it always looked like she cared because she was always critical of everybody else. But it turns out that's all she is a gobby cow. Because when push comes to shove, she's decided not to do this inquiry because she's scared stiff what it uncovers will end the Labour Party.
Interestingly, just to add to that, in 2024, in Jan 2024, before she was in power, she tweeted, next time any government minister tells you violence against women and girls is a priority, don't believe them. They don't give a toss.
Well, she was telling the truth, wasn't she?
Yes.
She was telling the truth.
Exactly. She's done exactly what she was accusing the previous government of doing.
Because it's different once you're in power.
Yeah.
She's now got a minister's job. You know, her wages have doubled. She's got a lovely car. She's got all the perks. She wants to be a minister. She's got dreams probably of being prime minister, but not a chance in hell. And suddenly she's got a tough decision to make. So who does she make the decision for? She doesn't make the decision for the girls. She makes the decision for her party and her career. She's just like everybody else. I've never liked her, but I would have had respect for her. I actually didn't think she would do this. I actually thought she was too intelligent enough and had too much of a reputation on this topic to think she could get away with not doing the full inquiry. How she thinks she could get away with this. How she doesn't think this is going to ruin her career and her reputation. I've got no idea.
And Labour are doubling down on this because Starmer's come out today, hasn't he, and said there won't be a national inquiry because it's a local matter, blah, 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 whatever.
It might be a local matter, but this is now being discussed across the world. Now that Elon Musk has said Jess Phillips needs to go to jail.
Yeah, because I think he said that when somebody tweeted about the fact she'd turned down the national inquiry. So I think somebody sent it to him or he's seen it and he then said she needs to go to jail. And that's what kicks all this off, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's news outlets now across the world telling their citizens what happens in the UK. Did you know that in the UK, hundreds of thousands of poor white girls, and some other colours as well, but mainly poor white girls, have been gang raped, mainly by Pakistani Muslims over decades, and their governments didn't do anything about it because they like diversity. Not only are we a laughing stock, it's getting to a stage where I think the Western world need to put sanctions on the UK until we stop our children being raped, just like we do in other third world countries, because we're becoming a third world country, that we need outsiders like Elon to tell people that our children are being raped, because no one listens to the British people.
We're hiding it.
Yeah.
The government here is hiding it,
You know, somebody may put sanctions on us for being a hotbed of child rape.
You would argue that's... And I think there was another tweet that Elon did today where it was about the Archbishop of Canterbury and all this paedophilia, the thing. And he said, I'm surprised any child in the UK grows up without trauma.
Yes.
And it's a really interesting point, isn't it? What they're doing to our children. They're allowing them to be raped. They're allowing them, paedophiles, to prey on them all over the place. That we're not even jailing paedophiles.
Yeah, we're not.
We're not even jailing paedophiles. So the children in this country are vulnerable and under attack, aren't they? And then the Minister for Safeguarding those children refuses a national inquiry to look into the rape of thousands of British working class girls.
Yeah. If you're a poor white kid in this country, you're scared of being stabbed to death, and you're scared of being raped to death. There's danger on every corner because no one's looking after us, no one's protecting us, no one is doing the job we're paying them to do.
Yeah.
It's not like the answer is, but we can't afford a police force, we can't afford social services, we can't afford these things. Well, not only can we afford them, we've got them. They just don't do their job. And that's the most frustrating part. We're spending billions on this, but no one does their job. And the reason why they won't do their job is it's political. Politicians are scared of losing votes. And the main reason why the individuals don't do it is, I don't want to be called racist. I would rather let poor white girls be gang raped over decades, some of them murdered as well. One of them, the rumours are she was chopped up and put in meat kebabs and sold. That's one of the rumours, one of the girls.
Is that the one in Blackpool?
Yes, who went missing. So, whether that's true or not, we don't know, but she was murdered because I don't think we ever found her.
She's never been found.
Exactly. So, that's what we're doing to our children. And when we get a gobby woman like Jess Phillips, who spent all her life saying she's different and telling us all her life that she will protect women and girls, the first opportunity to protect women and girls, she does nothing. Yes.
Tells them to piss off. There's been quite a lot of commentary about this, and I'm in various WhatsApp groups, and one of them made a comment, and I think this is really true, that the British state, the British elites, consider these children, these working class girls in northern towns, as untermensch, underclass basically, a class of person who doesn't deserve any kind of protection or whatever because they're not really worth it. They're a different class type. They're not worth bothering about. They don't deserve protecting or looking after. Do you think that's the view of the elite in London, the ones who are sitting there? We're in the north, aren't we?
Yeah.
These are our people. I think I grew up in a working class area all until I was 18.
This happens all over the country. It's not just a northern problem. It happened in Oxford.
Yeah, and I know these. I knew these girls when I was growing up. These young people, and they're like all young children, beautiful people. They're children, young children, full of the joys of life and everything like that. But the elite, the state, consider them to be subhuman almost.
I wouldn't go that far. There's many reasons why we have this problem. The first reason is we destroyed the family. The reason why we have a father at home, because he's the protector. If you're going to mess around with that 15-year-old, 12-year-old girl, and she's got a father at home, you risk violence. You don't know if he's violent or not, you don't know. I might as well mess with the girl next door who doesn't have a protector at home. She's easy meat. So the fact we took fathers away from their families and from their girls meant we left them open and as targets to be abused. That's the first thing we did. Second thing is we allowed women to over-sexualise themselves in the name of empowerment. So lots of our girls dress like hookers and strippers.
Not 13-year-old girls in.
Yes, they do.
Well,
to a certain extent, they do.
I think that's probably.
But
I think you've got to be careful there. You're straying into the territory of saying they were asking for it.
I don't think they're asking for it at all. Absolutely not. But we need to not be afraid of discuss of what went wrong. So the fact that we allowed women and through that girls to over-sexualise themselves. Girls are raised now going, the most important thing about her is her sexuality. And how do you get a man? Well, it's through sex. That never used to be the message we sent girls and women.
I think you've got to be careful there, because I think you're straying into the very territory I'm describing about how the elites think about these girls. At the end of the day, they are young, vulnerable children who are taken advantage of by kind of, voracious, well, in this case,
Criminals.
Pakistani criminal Muslims.
Yeah. But another reason why it happened as well was because through the woke stuff, we're told every life choice, every life is important to someone else's life choice. Hence why the authority said, these girls made these choices. Who are we to say these girls shouldn't be sleeping around at 14 with 100 men?
Yeah.
Who are we to say? It all comes out of that. There's many reasons why that led us to this situation.
I want to give you some examples here that I've been reading about. I'm sure you've read about them as well, that I think kind of supports my view that I think the elite consider white working class girls to be subhuman or an underclass. Nazir Assal, who was the deputy Crown Prosecution DPP, he's become a bit of a whistleblower actually in all this. He said in 2018, and 2018, by the way, was when I think Keir Starmer was in charge of the CPS at that point, possibly. The Home Office sent a circular to police forces, all police forces around the country, saying, one sentence in particular, these young girls have made an informed choice.
Yeah.
So all these girls, they knew then that these girls were being raped, gang raped in many cases by Pakistani Muslims. They sent a circular to police forces saying these girls have made an informed choice. There was a Times reporter, I think you mentioned his name before, I can't remember his name, he's the one that kind of did it, I think it was in 2011.
He broke a big story,
I don't know if you remember his name. I saw it today. He described a situation where a grandfather reported that his 13-year-old granddaughter had gone missing in Rotherham. The police did nothing about it. They were called by another resident in Rotherham at 2 o'clock in the morning, saying she'd heard a girl screaming next door. The police turned up then. They found this 13-year-old girl, Nick, alone in a house with 7 adult Pakistani men at 2:30 in the morning, barely clothed or semi-naked, drunk. Do you know what happened?
Yeah.
They arrested the girl.
Yeah, for drunk and disorderly.
Charged her for being drunk and disorderly. Didn't even ask the question why there were 7 adult men in a house with her. That's an example of what happened.
And that's because those officers, scared of being racist, wanted to go to another job, sick of kids causing problems, and are being told that's her lifestyle choice.
Yes, they've been sent a memo, haven't they?
Yeah,
saying that these girls are making an informed choice.
I came across some almost identical as that. I've done a lot of work on this, set up projects tackling it and all sorts of things. Won a national award stopping kids being raped, and we were working with a 14-year-old girl in Gorton, and we went down one day and the mum told us, police brought her home last night. 4 o'clock in the morning, the police found her in a city centre at 14 years old in a hotel with 3 Asian men. So I contacted the police, I wanted the crime reference number, and I wanted to know what they were doing with the 3 men. And after a lot of chasing, I found out the police officers involved didn't even take the 3 men's names.
Jesus Christ.
No record of the 3 men. They turned up, took the girl home, didn't even record the names of the men. The police stop you for dropping litter. The first thing they do is take your name, address, date of birth.
Yeah.
Didn't even get their names. I put an official complaint in about that.
Yeah, that is scandalous. And if you contrast that to what happened during the Southport protests, people arrested for name calling, for tweets, and this is happening at the same time. This stuff is happening. It's just horrific. There's another example was given. A 14-year-old was married to her accuser, presumably in this
Islamic marriage,
Sharia law, or whatever it's called. Her social worker attended the marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, this is institutionalised now. This is institutionally deep. The police are involved. Social workers are involved in this.
Yeah.
Seeing this stuff happening, and nobody's done anything about it.
They have done something about it. They attended the wedding. Because it's all about diversity. It's all about celebrating diversity. This culture marries early. It's not a proper wedding, but it's an Islamic wedding. And how wonderful that this 14-year-old poor white girl wants to join this community. That's amazing.
And where the hell is the safeguarding of our children?
Diversity takes over. Inclusivity is more important. Not being a racist, being an anti-racist is more important than the gang industrial rape of poor white girls. And it's been going on for decades.
And I know you have been heavily involved in this.
I've had paedophiles arrested and prosecuted for this.
Yeah. Lucy Lowe, this is a girl, a 16-year-old girl.
Mm.
She died with her mother and sister in a house fire, a house that was set on fire by Azhar Ali Mahmood.
Mm.
He came around and set fire to the house. She was pregnant at the time, but she'd already had a child with him at 14.
Mm.
So this guy is systematically abusing this young girl. Had a child with her already, got her pregnant again, and then because he's not happy, he goes around and sets fire to the house and kills her mother and her sister.
Yeah. No father in the home though, is there?
No, there's no father, no.
A father should be taking a baseball bat and caving someone's head in and then doing 20 years in jail.
Mm.
At least that would have sent a message around the community that we're not accepting this. But weak men in this country allowed their children to be gang raped. Weak men allowed most of this to happen. Weak men in the police force, incompetent woke women in the police service and in the social services crying about diversity allowed this to happen. We're all as guilty as the people who did the raping. I mean, me and you were all as guilty because this has been going on for so long and we've known about it for decades. Everyone's known about it. The term grooming gang is in the dictionary. That's how common the phrase is. We know what's been going on. No politician has handled it or really tackled it because there's no votes in it. If there was votes in it, they would have tackled it. They're afraid of losing votes from the Muslim community, but they know they're not going to gain any votes by anybody else. So why am I doing it? This is a failure, a monumental failure across our country at every level by every single citizen in the country. And until we realise that, until we take that on board, until we do some soul searching about what we didn't do and what we closed our eyes to, and I heard the phrase, but I didn't do anything about it. I didn't write to my MP. I didn't demonstrate on the streets. It's only recently there's been demonstration on the streets about this sort of stuff because people were being scared of being called a racist, so they didn't go on the streets. That's their fault.
Yeah.
We allowed this to happen, and shame on all of us. And the only thing we can do to gain a little bit of pride back now and a little bit of courage back now is to do something about it now. It's too late in the past. We need to do something now.
Yeah. And where is Keir Starmer in all this? He was the head of the CPS at the time. Apparently as well, I don't know if you're aware of this, as a DPP, he had some cases brought about doctors involved in sex-selective abortions. So sex-selective abortions is where, and again, this is tending to happen in Muslim families, where they want a boy, not a girl. So they have girls aborted. They get the doctors to check if it's a girl, the girl's aborted. If it's a boy, it's left. So he decided as DPP that those doctors would not be prosecuted.
That's a cultural thing, but the fact we're killing babies anyway, does it matter why we're killing them? Does it matter, well, it's okay to kill the boys, but it's not okay to kill the girls or vice versa? We're killing 250,000 babies in this country a year. But because that's a cultural thing, that's diversity. So a white couple have got 4 girls and only want a boy. They're not allowed to abort. But if you're Muslim and you class it as part of your culture, you won't be prosecuted. Two-tier care. It's always a two-tier system.
So how much have we sacrificed as a country for this multiculturalism then? Because this is
100,000 girls.
Yeah.
That's what we've sacrificed. 100,000 girls, at least, who have been raped, systematically raped, over decades and decades and decades. Some of these girls' children have been raped.
Jesus
so some
Christ.
of it's intergenerational now. And it's been an open secret. That's what we've sacrificed for diversity and multiculturalism. We've sacrificed our soul as a nation.
And there's particularly graphic details of what was done to these girls as well. So one girl in particular was drugged. Then they used a pump in her anus to expand the size of her anus so she could
be
prepared for anal sex. And then multiple Pakistani Muslim men then raped this girl. But like I'm saying, not once at a time as though that's better, but multiple at the same time. 4 or 5 men raping the girl at the same time, anally, vaginally, orally as well. This stuff was going on.
And then the next day being driven to another town or city and happening all over again. And the next day being driven somewhere else. And all these men are uncles and cousins and brothers and friends they work with. And it's a bit like when you go to a Man U match with your mates. That's what this was. It was a get together, some fun. You watch some football and have a pint. They got together, had some fun by raping our children.
But not their own children.
No,
not the Pakistani
not Muslim children, because that's not very nice.
Yeah,
just the infidels' children, because our book said you can rape them. You can rape women who are not Muslim, and they look down upon our Western women because they've lost their way. Many of our Western women have lost their way, but they've used that as an excuse to rape him.
And there was an article that I was sent where somebody tries to explain this in the context of the religion, basically, and saying that countries not controlled by Islam are called Dar al-Harb, or House of War, basically. Muslim men can take sex slaves during a war against the infidel, which is us, the kafir. And as the Prophet Muhammad decreed, girls aged 9 and above are available for penetrative sex. So very young English girls can be considered as legally available under Sharia law as sex slaves. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now, let me do this one as well. This will upset some people as well.
Well, I think anybody listening to this will be pretty upset already, won't they? So,
there's a prostitute at the moment called Lily Allen. Not Lily Allen, Lily Phillips.
Lily Allen is a singer.
She's a singer, yeah.
There's a prostitute called
Lily Phillips. She's the one who slept with 100 men in 24 hours. Yeah. There's a great advertisement of our young women and our girls. That's what people are looking at. These men are looking at going, they're all whores. They're all degenerates.
Yeah. It's okay for us to do that.
Because look at them.
Yeah.
Look at the state of them.
Yeah.
We don't have Muslim women like this, because our women have got standards. Our Muslim women have morals. We're much better people than them. And to a certain extent, they're correct. Now, so we need to make sure that we haven't got...
Well, they're not correct, are they? Because a normal English white man watching that doesn't then automatically think, now I can go and rape... Me and my friends can rape a 13-year-old girl 100 times. No, the point I'm trying to make is our women are not doing themselves any favour by portraying themselves as whores and prostitutes. Yeah, but no, I think you're wrong there, Nick, because an English man like you and me may watch that girl having sex with 100 men in 24 hours. We then don't automatically think that all English Western women want to have sex with 100 men and it's okay to rape them 100 times. We don't think that way, do we? No, we don't. They think that way, these Pakistani Muslims, because it's their religion and their culture that allows them to think that's the way. That's why this is happening. This is multiculturalism at its best, at its finest. Absolutely, but we need to look at every reason why it happens. And the point I'm trying to make is some of our young women are not helping the cause. Because I genuinely think our viewers are not going to agree with you on that. Would you put on a £50,000 Rolex watch and walk through Manchester, through Piccadilly Gardens at 2:00 in the morning? No, but I wouldn't equate that to that woman having sex with 100 men in 24 hours. No, it's not exactly the same. The point I'm trying to make is we need to take preventative measures to make sure we're safe. And that woman who slept with 100 men is sending the wrong signal around the world of what Western women are like. And she's a one-off, because Western women aren't like that. But she
she's sending the wrong message all the time.
I think there's two separate messages here, aren't there? One is that, yes, I agree, the woman with the 100 men, things like that, we've lost our decorum as a society, and things like that need to be fixed. Is that related to what those Pakistani men are doing to those girls? No. I think that is and it can't be, can it? Because it's been going on for 20 years now.
Longer, 40, 50 years, yeah.
I can't see the two are linked. I think this is a behavioural issue, a cultural issue relating to religion and culture to do with Pakistani men, and we do know it's mainly Pakistani men, don't we? 99. I think they said some Bengalis are involved in it as well, but it's mainly Pakistani men.
It's like 85% Pakistani men.
Yeah.
Some Bangladeshis in there,
including a Labour councillor.
Yeah.
Who was actually coordinating this in a Labour a council office. So this is kind of horrifically institutionalized. Just on the difference between the Asian girls who cannot be touched and the white girls who can be raped multiple times. A child molester who abused 2 Asian girls was given a longer sentence than if his victims had been white, because Asian sex crime victims suffer more, a leading judge has ruled. Mr. Justice Walker said it was proper for paedophile Jamal Mohammed Rahim ul-Nazir to have been given a tougher than normal sentence because his victims were Asian.
Two-tier system again, isn't it?
So Asian girls who were raped by Pakistani Muslims
are bigger victims than white girls who were raped.
Than our white girls. And I go back to my main premise that the elite in this country regard British white working class girls as subhuman, as untermensch, as a different class who don't deserve the protection that other people get.
I want to use the term underclass. Sorry, subhuman. I would use the term underclass. They're same as underclass. The same as scum.
So where is this going to go then? Because you've been talking about this for years. You've been doing your bit. You've been prosecuting people. You've been taking your action, and you've been trying to bring it to public attention for a long time. It's now out there. It's live. It's going. What's going to happen, do you think?
We need action. I don't even want a national inquiry into this. We've had loads of inquiries. It leads to nothing. It takes 2-3 years, costs 100 million. Nothing changes. But government says, oh, we've had an inquiry. What I was going to do if I had become mayor of Greater Manchester last year, one of my policies was I was going to look at every report done in Greater Manchester. I was going to get a panel together with people like Maggie Oliver on it and some others on it. And I was going to tell them, highlight every named police officer who failed. And everyone they named we were going to sack. And then I was going to allow them to take us to court for unfair dismissal, and we'll have it out in court. And if we have to pay him off because I shouldn't have sacked him, so be it. But that would have sent a message around the country that finally you will lose your job over not performing your duties when it comes to protecting children. Until we get people being sacked, nothing will change. Because what happens now is they make mistakes, lessons have learned. We've learned lessons now, it can't happen again. Let's hold an inquiry, it'll take 3 years. The people who are guilty will retire or take early pension, so they can't be touched anymore now. Records are deleted. Maggie Oliver told me there was 4 senior police officers in Greater Manchester, just under, I think they were all like assistant chief constables, had a meeting where they decided they weren't going to look into the rape cases. And it was minuted, but in the minutes didn't say whose idea it was not to look into it. So all 4 of them were spoken to at one of the inquiries, and all 4 of them says, I don't remember whose idea it was. Now what I would do, I'd sack all 4 of them.
Yeah, correct.
I'd sack all 4 of them.
They're complicit, aren't they? Yeah. Regardless, yeah.
And let's say they took us all to court and they won their court cases, we've got to give them $500,000, $1 million each. So be it.
Well, you just don't give them the $500,000. You just say, you can see in this court again. I'm not paying you.
Yeah, eventually it would do that. But the point is, even if it costs us money, it would have sent a signal around the country that we're not accepting this anymore. There's no more excuses. We're not accepting, I don't know who said it at the minutes. I'm not accepting, I was scared of being called racist. I'm not accepting that my boss told me to ignore gang rape. We're not accepting any of it. You will lose your job. And if we could, I'm not saying we could prosecute me, but I'd prosecute me if we could, but I'm not sure we'd have enough evidence to prosecute. But the least I could have done as mayor would have forced the chief constable to sack him. And if he said no, I was going to sack him. and I would then get a new chief constable who'd be willing to sack him. That was one of my priorities if I'd have become mayor last year, because I'm sick of reports. I'm sick of lessons will be learned.
Let's talk about the cultural and racial aspect of this, because it's now clear this is being carried out by Pakistani Muslim men.
Predominantly, but Bangladeshis as well.
Yeah. Southern Asian.
Eritreans.
Yeah.
Somalians are involved because they're all Muslims.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's mainly Pakistani Muslims.
Yeah.
I think that's fairly clear. 95% are Pakistani.
And I think it's like 85%.
Yeah. We've talked about multiculturalism, we've talked about immigration not working. I think this is a stark... So we've now, in the past 6 months, seen a situation where we now know that immigrants are not contributing towards the economy. We're now finding out that the Pakistani Muslims are raping our children. We're now finding out, I think the news came out today, that foreign nationals are 35% more likely to to be involved in sexual...
3 times, not 30%, 3 times.
Sorry, 3 times. Sorry, I got it wrong. Sorry, 300%.
Yeah.
So 3 times more likely to be arrested for sexual offences than native English people as well. So I think...
And on that start there, the number one group...
Albanians,
white Europeans.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't want them here either.
Yeah. We do.
It's got nothing to do with religion. Correct. For me. Colour of skin or continent you come from. I don't want any immigrants anymore now. And for perverts and criminals, I don't care the colour of your skin, your religion, where you're from. I don't want you here in my country.
Yeah.
And that goes with all the Albanians, who many of them, majority of them are criminals.
Yeah. So it's now clear to me, and I hope to our gentle viewers, and I'm sure to you, Nick, that multiculturalism has failed. Multiculturalism has failed. Diversity is not our strength, it's our biggest fucking weakness as far as I can see at the moment.
It's literally killing us.
Literally killing us. It's raping and killing us. Diversity is a fucking weakness, massive weakness.
Apart from a menu, there is no benefit to diversity.
A takeaway menu.
Yeah, apart from a menu, there is no...
Yeah.
I've not had anyone tell me a benefit of diversity.
Correct.
Apart from foreign food.
Yeah, but we have a litany of its weaknesses now. What's the way forward?
The forward is more public awareness and waiting for this Labour government to fall. Nothing's going to change under this Labour government. They may pretend it's changing. They may come out with more statements, but nothing's going to change. It's a government. If we're lucky, it'll be the government after this one. If we're unlucky, it'll be the government after that.
Jesus.
So it could be in a couple of years, it could be in 6, 7, 8 years, depending on the election cycles. But can any of this change overnight? Not with this government. Not if the Tories are still in power either, because they all bought into this. So they're all as guilty as each other. They've all got blood on their hands. Nobody wants to shine a light on it. It's the government, maybe, after this one, that may be clean, that will have MPs and leaders who have not been in power before, so they're all clean of this, who then may do something about it. But part of this has to be mass deportations.
And that's one of the things I was coming on to, because some months ago in this podcast we talked about Calvin Robinson.
Yep.
And he said something in one of his podcasts, and you were quite shocked to hear it at the time. Now that we start to get more information, more knowledge and more understanding, and I suspect he had perhaps more insight than we did into this, he said all Pakistanis should be deported.
Yeah.
He was quite unequivocal. It was all Pakistanis should be deported back to Pakistan. Where are you in terms of that opinion then, and where you are now in terms of your thought process? What are you now thinking about what seemed at the time to be a very radical and a very extreme position to take?
I'm still not sure if he meant all Pakistanis, all British people of Pakistani heritage, or did he mean all Pakistani nationals So I'm still not clear what he meant.
Well, slice and dice. Let's assume you can choose to interpret that the way you want to interpret.
There's many things we need to do. We're not going to deport everybody in this country with a foreign heritage, because we then get into problems of me and you, because you're half English, I'm half English. What do we do about that? Is it, as long as you've got any English blood in you, you can stay? Is that the matrix? The first thing I would do is we need to close the borders and end immigration. We say no more immigration.
Immediately.
Yeah.
That could happen overnight.
At least for 5-10 years. And then towards 5-10 years, maybe then we go, do you know what? Maybe we take half a dozen of these amazing people somewhere because we need something. But you know what? If we get our education right, we don't need to take anyone. Because every time we take someone amazing from around the world, we leave their country poorer. And we wonder why we have the third world. Because anyone with any sense and brains and capacity, we steal those people. So we need to stop stealing people. So end the border crisis, close the borders. We then, day 2, we then deport the 10,000 foreign criminals in UK jails.
Yeah.
12% of the prison population are foreign nationals. Deport them overnight. All of them. Do you know how hard it is to get into jail unless you're a political prisoner? But, you know, if you're a normal prisoner, it takes a long time for you to do something to get into jail.
Yeah.
So these are the scum of the scum. Deport them all. We then need to trawl the databases of everyone who is a foreign national and is living in this country who has ever committed a crime. We deport all them. Even if some of them are married and have got children in this country. It's like, well, I'm sorry kids, you can go with them if you want. We'll pay for your fare if you want, or you stay here. So we deport everyone who's committed crime in this country, who's a foreign national or who's a dual nationality. I'm sick of people having dual nationalities.
Yeah.
So if you have the benefits of having a dual nationality, you'll have the negatives as well, which means we'll deport you as well.
Yeah.
Then we need to look at everyone who's come here legally. Students, workers, and we treat them slightly better because they're not criminals. They came here legally. And we say to them, Mate, you've got 2-year visas, 18 months left on your visa. I'm letting you know it will not be renewed. You need to start making plans. And we start saying to people, you all need to start going home. You're adding nothing to the community or to the country. You've all on visas, they're all going to be cancelled. We're giving you time. Start selling your stuff and start moving home. And we start telling them. We also then need to start looking at anybody who's a foreign national in this country. They should pay more tax. So we increase their tax code. So everyone not born in this country will pay 1 or 2% more in income tax. We then also stop foreign nationals accessing any of our benefit system, accessing major parts of our NHS. I don't want an immigrant being knocked down the street and just lying there bleeding to death. They'll still get emergency care, but everything else will go. And we basically say to all immigrants, you're coming here to benefit us at our pleasure. I'd also start something as well where British citizens can petition to have particular immigrants deported. And if they can get so many signatures and they can fund a court case and they can show why this particular immigrant needs to be deported, I would have a way of British citizens to deport guests in this country. We need to change the whole system.
I want to talk about something called the ILR. Have you heard that? Which is the indefinite leave to remain. Have you heard about that? Because we have to think about these last 3 years. We've had 3 million people coming in the last 3 years, and that's one of our biggest issues, isn't it? The number of people who come in the last 3 years under Tory government, and as we now know, it's the Uni Party. They basically all support this immigration shit, basically. So the ILR currently is, I think it's 3 years. Or 3 to 5 years. Yeah. If you're here for 3 to 5 years, you automatically get the ILR, indefinite leave of return. That can be changed at any time.
All cancelled.
Yeah, can be all cancelled. Yes.
All asylum.
Yeah.
Cancelled.
Yes.
All refugee status cancelled.
Yes. So these are legal steps that we can take as a country to either, even if we can't get rid of the ILR. So let's say there's this now raft of what are these lawyers called? These
Human rights lawyers.
Human rights lawyers. There's thousands of the
Yeah.
buggers all over the place trying to cause problems.
But the first thing you do there is you pass a law that human rights lawyers are not entitled to legal aid. They go overnight. So you can still have legal aid.
Oh, I didn't know they got legal aid.
Yeah. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah. So some of it will be charity funded, but a lot of them are claiming legal aid.
Yeah.
So we stop all that.
Yeah.
We also need, but to do any of it, we'd have to pull out the ECHR. So once we pull out of that, there is no human rights legislation, so they're all defunct.
Yeah.
Just do that at the beginning.
So we could extend the ILR to 10 years or 20 years to give us time to work out what to do as well. So that's something we could do in this. So I think there are processes and steps we can take. But then I wanted to talk about Dubai and Singapore. And the reason I'm interested in this at the moment, my sons are reading the book about the founder of Singapore. I think he's called Juan Liu. I don't know what his name is, but this guy basically built Singapore from nothing, former British colony, to be one of the most kind of richest countries in the world. But Dubai and Singapore, and I've spent time in Dubai, as you know, we have a business over there. Foreigners that come to work in Dubai have no automatic right of citizenship, ever, basically. And it's the same in Singapore. So they bring in foreign workers to do the work that nobody else wants to do. But then once they finish, they have to go back. So people who have worked in Dubai for 20 years, once they finish working, they have to go back to India or wherever they come from.
If you employ me as a butler in your house,
Yes.
should I have any rights to then stay forever in your house?
No.
No, because you employed me to do a job. I'm doing the job. When that job ends, I leave your house.
Correct.
That's how we should treat foreign workers.
Yeah.
As in, you come into our country to do a job. When that job's gone, you go. And we can throw you out anytime we want if you misbehave.
Yeah.
But it's as if the second you step foot in this country, it's as if we treat you like a British citizen.
Correct.
You're not a British citizen.
You're correct. And I think I'm going to read out some stats later on a different subject where you'll probably be quite shocked to hear about what's happening in terms of how our public what they call things like the NHS or our public services are being abused by foreign nationals, basically. But what I'm trying to say is there is a model that can work for England, like Dubai or like Singapore, where we don't have to automatically think as soon as somebody arrives, we need to work out how they're going to become a permanent resident. There almost seems to be an obsession with saying anybody who comes here will have a right to become a British citizen. Where did that idea come from?
I've absolutely no idea. I don't think anybody who wasn't born here should ever be able to become a British citizen.
Yeah.
I think you may end up living here, because you're now married to someone.
Yeah.
But I don't think at any point you should be able to vote. You're not a British citizen.
Yeah.
You're a foreigner who now lives here.
And how have we ended up like this? If you look at other countries like Dubai, like Singapore, like even America, there's no automatic right in America to become an American citizen, is there?
No, but we've followed their lines. Lots of people, if you come legally to America, there is a route of becoming a legal citizen.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is there's no reason for us to be like we are. We can change that and we can become like Dubai or Singapore, which, by the way, are incredibly successful economies.
Yeah.
Very, very high GDPs, so we seem to have created this welfare system, and now we've embraced the world to come here and use it, basically, and then become citizens in our country.
For people who say there's no way we're going to deport millions and millions of people, we haven't got the organisation. When I say some of them we're going to have to deport physically, like the prisoners, deport them. But many millions will leave of their own accord when we take away all the benefits.
Yeah.
So when we take away the NHS, when we take away any state benefit, unemployment, when we don't give them houses, when we tax them more, we need to incrementally make it harder and worse living here, and many of these people will go back home.
Let me move on to the NHS now, because I think that's an area that you and I both know isn't working for us anymore, certainly as British citizens. In 1 month last year, or this year, it must have been last year, 4.8 million people in the UK could not make contact with their GP on the same day.
Yep.
Of that 4.8 million, 2.2 million had to wait several days before they could make contact, and 1.1 million didn't make contact at all.
Gave up.
Basically.
Yeah.
So didn't get treated.
Now, on that stat itself, I didn't realise to leave it out. I have no expectation of contact, of getting hold of my doctor the day I want to get hold of him.
Oh yeah.
If I phoned up and got an appointment 3 days from now, I would think that's good.
Yeah.
So how low are our expectations on the service
we
we're
have
paying
been
for?
battered into submission, haven't we? We have been battered into submission, into believing this is the right way for it to be.
Yeah.
But you and I remember from our childhood, if you wanted to go and see the doctor, you rang up, you were in the same day, seen by a proper doctor, not a
I remember
nurse.
Doctors doing house visits.
Yes, I remember that. I remember when I was ill as a child, a doctor coming to the house and checking me out. I had a fever or something, and the doctor came around. I remember it vividly.
Me too.
Yeah, and now look at us. Our kids can't get appointments, and those numbers really explain what most people are experiencing. I'm sure all our viewers are seeing this. Half of those who actually did eventually make contact, which is the 2.2 million, didn't get a face-to-face appointment. It was either on the phone or on Teams. So you're not even now getting to see the bloody doctors. And a lot of the time, it's a practice nurse or some sort of nurse you see, not a doctor.
A friend of mine went to see a doctor over there, was amazed. She got a doctor appointment, turned up, and it was a paramedic. Another time she went, it was a nurse.
One of our listeners who I'm in contact with, who was suicidal a few years ago, rang up the doctors to say he was suicidal, needed help, was never called back. Never called back by anybody.
I took a homeless person once, not me, a member of my team, took a homeless person who was threatening suicide in Manchester City Centre, a rough sleeper. We took him to a place in Ancoats called the Crisis Centre. Took him there, they examined him and said, yeah, we can't help him, he's in too much crisis. You're called the Crisis Centre, he's going to kill himself. Yeah, we know that.
It's a bit too much of a crisis for us to do.
In hindsight, we never should have called ourselves the Crisis Centre.
We should have called ourselves Slight Problem Centre. Yeah, Slight Issue Centre. Rupert Lowe, who is emerging as a really great MP, isn't he? Is a Reform MP. Apparently he's a farmer, this guy. I don't know. This is what I've heard.
Oh, he's a multimillionaire. He owns farms.
Yeah, he just got sick of the...
He owns Southampton Football Club as well.
Anyway, he's a fantastic bloke, and he got information from one GP practice in London. I don't know if you've seen this. This is shocking stuff.
Tower Hamlets.
Readers, brace yourself. Listeners, brace yourself. Was it Tower Hamlets? So this Tower Hamlets practice, one GP practice, only 8%, read this, of appointments were for British citizens. 92% of the appointments were non-British citizens. So an entire GP practice, only 8% of British people were actually looked after by it. 51% of those patients in that practice required an interpreter. They can't speak English.
We're spending billions on interpreters. Billions.
They can't speak English, these people. 72% of all sick notes issued, and sick notes then of course generate benefits and all that shit that we're paying as well. 72% of sick notes were to patients who didn't speak English. So we're now seeing that our NHS is being consumed by foreign nationals, non-British citizens. There is also, for you and I who go to A&E, we have to wait hours. On average, is it 12 hours or something like that? Ridiculous. Apparently in London, University College Hospital in London, South London, Stoke-on-Trent, Guy's Hospital, St Thomas's Hospital, there's a scheme. And it's called the 987 Inclusion Health Scheme, Nick. And that scheme is for undocumented migrants. And guess how long they have to wait?
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
It's not just migrants, it's also alcoholics, drug addicts and undocumented migrants can jump the queue. A&E should be about priority need.
Correct.
So you come in, you get triage, so whoever needs it first, So as an alcoholic of a drug user or an undocumented migrant, you can come in with any ailment that's not even important, and you'll be seen in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's not relating to your alcoholism or being an
If you're an alcoholic and you're dying, you should get priority treatment.
Yeah.
But if you're an alcoholic and you've hurt your elbow, well, that's not priority treatment. But the fact you're an alcoholic means you get 15-minute treatment. And when I go to A&E now, I'm an alcoholic.
I think, during COVID, I spent one day, I think 5 hours with my wife's mother, who had dementia, in an A&E waiting to be seen. 5 hours. She'd fallen. Yeah. I think she'd broken a leg or something. She was on a stretcher. Yeah. We were in a corridor, and I think we were there for 5 hours. And this is a woman who was a teacher all her life. She worked all her life. She paid her taxes, paid her national insurance, and we had to wait 5 hours. And yet we now have undocumented foreign nationals coming to this country who will be seen within 15 minutes.
People who shouldn't be in the country, who are throwing their documents away. We don't want them here. We have no idea who they are, who have never paid a penny into the system.
Correct.
And they're getting gold standard treatment.
Yeah.
Above citizens.
Yeah.
You can't make this crap up.
No. It's horrific.
And the anger, this is breeding. The anger, you can taste it in the air.
When I was reading that, I was furious.
Yes.
Because I didn't realise that. I know that shit's happening. I didn't realise all this shit's happening. So all we're hearing all the time is what is happening to our country because the Uni Party, the Tories and Labours have allowed this to happen. They've allowed this to happen. And they're encouraging this behaviour.
I read that from a trusted source. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah. Well, Rupert Lowe's a trusted source, isn't he? Just moving on to the wasteful, that is, as you say, enraging. Moving on to the wasteful state of our wasteful state, which is what I call this section. Apparently, we know now we contribute, as we know, billions to climate change and the World Bank climate finance. 40 Oxfam, who we don't like anyway, but they did a report which
child rape. You know Oxfam, child rapists.
What? Sorry, Oxfam.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Child rapists. Yeah.
The people who work for Oxfam in some of the disaster areas in Africa and the Caribbean were raping children.
Yes, I do remember that in the news.
Yeah.
Well, apparently when they weren't raping children, they were doing some reports for a change. And they discovered that $41 billion, or 40%, of all World Bank climate finance, so this is when we send money to the World Bank, they then hand it out to all these countries that need help for climate. 40%, or $41 billion, is unaccounted for. It's just gone, basically.
You send money to the third world, it disappears.
Yeah.
You have no idea who steals it.
Yeah.
And to be certain, and they know that when they're sending it, because these are third world countries.
Yeah. So we're pissing away money to this world, to net zero, which is a myth, basically. We're pissing away money to net zero, which is a myth. And then it's going to these places, and then it's getting stolen. It's not even getting to do the things that don't need to be done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even getting there. Council tax in this country. A quarter of council tax now goes to pension payments for council staff.
Shocking. I didn't know that was a case until a few months ago when you mentioned something similar. I thought council pensions, I thought were a pot of money that existed. That the council staff put some money in and then the council's topping it up and it's there somewhere. This is a disaster, this.
Yeah. So our council taxes, which are too bloody horrific, you get nothing for anyway, as far as I can see. They've not swept the leaves on my street for about 3 months or something. Quarter of the tax that you pay goes into these gold-plated defined benefit pensions. This is the one that really got me sick, and I'm sure lots of other people have seen this as well, and it's made them sick as well. In the last 4 years, 2,000 council staff have been approved to work from abroad. So if you work for the council, you've got a job where you say I can work from home. They say not only can you work from home, Nick, you can go and work in Barbados from home if you want, and we'll carry on paying you, basically. So even though the money we're paying you doesn't go towards the local economy or whatever like that, we'll carry on you paying you that money. The money that the hard-working constituents of an area are basically using.
And most of those staff are not working from Barbados. They're working from Pakistan, Nigeria, India.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It said here where places have been approved have been Barbados, South Africa and Thailand.
Yeah.
One senior official in France, and this is a senior person in the council, I think it was a London council, was actually away in France for 2 years working from home. So sitting somewhere, sipping wine, looking out over, being paid a nice fat salary with a pension coming at the end, by the way, that we've got to pay for. 2 years.
Yep, this is just how crazy the councils have become. It's working from home. We all know working from home doesn't work. But now we allow them to work abroad. I said this last time we discussed this. Just before Christmas, Gatwick Airport closed down for so many hours because the tech guy running the system, when there was an error, he was working from home that day, didn't have the passcode and couldn't reset the system. Hours of delays. And working from home is a middle class con.
Although every time we say that, our viewers get upset.
Yeah.
Because some of them work from home.
And watch this while they should be working.
I hope you're not watching this while you should be working, letting your employer down. But to add to the insult to injury, productivity in the public sector is down nearly 9% from 2019, pre-COVID, basically.
And that's shocking because it was already low.
Yes. I was going to say that's hard to get that extra, squeeze those extra percentages out of there. But it's all right, don't worry though, because they're going to increase council tax bills by 5% in April.
Yeah.
So we can afford to cover this stuff because we're all paying more.
And the Labour government will be bringing in legislation this year that allows councils to raise even more council tax. At the moment, the most they can raise is 5%.
This shit has got to stop.
They're going to give councils the power to raise more because the government itself doesn't want to raise any more taxes because it looks bad. So they'll say to the councils, we're going to give you less money, but you can raise more money. So it's going to be that.
Jesus Christ. This shit has got to stop, Nick. You need to stop it. Can you do something, please?
I'm going to try.
Just an interesting point on this. The civil service also says we need mass immigration, but why don't they just let the migrants work from home? So we went to Wales for New Year. I think I told you we always do that. Yeah. My son, who was driving separately to us, he was tailed for about 10 miles by a copper.
To make sure he did 20?
Yeah, and who then sat him down and said, oh, you were doing on average 53 in a 50-mile zone, and he'd been recording him for 10 minutes and then gave him a ticket. So I did some digging. Gwynedd Council, which is the one, and on the ticket they gave me, it said, North Wales Police are committed to reducing the number of people killed on our roads. So I did some digging. Gwynedd recorded 7 fatalities in 2023. 4 were teenage boys in a car that flipped and went into a ditch and they drowned in the ditch. So
I remember that case.
Yeah, it was because hardly anybody dies on the roads in frickin' Gwynedd. So 3 other people, I don't know how they died. But the police are doing that. Instead of dealing with battered wives, abused children, rape victims, this is what they're spending their time doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
priorities are all wrong.
Yeah, we seem to have lost our understanding of what is important and what isn't important in our society now, haven't we?
If we've got someone driving too fast and ends up killing themselves, or we've got a woman being beaten up, or a house being burgled, or a child being raped, the person who took a chance and was speeding and killed themselves gets no sympathy from me.
Correct.
We all take risks in life.
Yes.
And that's a risk they took and they paid the ultimate consequence. I want the police protecting innocent victims, not people who are contributing to their own demise.
Yes, I agree. Just on this wasteful state of our wasteful state, Javier Milou, I'll come back to him again, he's scrapped the number of government departments from 18 down to 9. Yeah. He's scrapped the climate change department. In the time he's done that, he's only been going for a year. Wages in that country have doubled because he's managed to control inflation, and the country's back in the black.
Yeah.
He's done that in a year. So I think we know what the
And
answer is.
Argentina was a basket case. So it's not like he's taken a half-decent country and improved it. He took a basket case and he's turned it normal in a year. It all can be done.
Yes. I think that kind of ends it for this. It's been a very negative episode, I'm afraid, Nick, unless you've got anything to lighten the load at the end. But yeah, I think the grooming gangs thing, I think we now have to accept, and surely people are now seeing that multiculturalism has failed, mass immigration has failed, the country's in a mess, and we need action to be taken, really, sooner rather than later.
No, absolutely. Now, we're crying out for a hero. Who's that hero going to be? We don't know yet, but that hero is on the way. I can feel it. So huge change. Change is already happening in the last couple of days. Yeah. This time next year, we'll look back and go, God, that was a year. Look at that year. Look at the change that's happened. Yeah. And we're in for a roller coaster for the next few years.
I think that hero, whoever he is, and hopefully it's you, Nick, but whoever that hero is, I think people will be far more receptive now.
Oh, yeah.
Than they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, basically. Because I think people can see the shit is happening now. They can see it for real, and it's not being hidden anymore, is it?
No.
So let's hope that hero arrives pretty soon.
What's happened the last few years is someone has taken the curtain hiding the Wizard of Oz and has pulled it back, and we now can see the truth. And we're not being fooled by a magic voice anymore now. Yeah. So change will come.
On that bombshell, Nick Buckley, thank you very much.
Thank you.